They said we escaped. But exile isn't freedom. It's just another kind of silence. Paris became our shelter and our prison. Two souls pretending they didn't break. Two hearts learning how to live without applause, without noise, without lies. Asterisk. But even oceans can't hide the past forever. Asterisk. This is episode 3, The Exile. Because sometimes, leaving isn't running away, it's the only way to begin again. The airport didn't feel like freedom. It felt like punishment, dressed in first class and silence.
No cameras this time.
No headlines. Just two people who had lost everything, except each other. He didn't say where we were going until we were already boarding. Paris, he said quietly. Somewhere no one knows us. I didn't ask why he chose us instead of me. Maybe I was afraid to hear the answer. Hours above the clouds. The city lights below shrinking into something that no longer mattered. He worked on his laptop, the same calm, distant expression he always wore when he didn't want me to see he was scared. Between us, a silence that wasn't awkward anymore. It was almost gentle. I looked out the window and whispered to myself, "This isn't the end." He didn't look up, but I heard him answer,
"No."
"It's the first time we get to start on our own terms." We landed at dawn. The city was half asleep, washed in blue and gold. He carried both our bags, not because I couldn't, but because that's how he says I'm sorry. Our apartment was small, quiet, full of echoes. He stood by the window, watching the rain begin to fall. "We'll stay here for a while," he said softly. "Until when? Until the world forgets us? Or until we stop caring if it doesn't?" They called it exile. But maybe it was freedom, just the kind that doesn't come with applause, only with peace. Our first morning in Paris felt like a dream someone forgot to finish. No servants, no schedule, just 2 toothbrushes in the same sink, and a city that didn't care who we used to be. He made coffee, too strong as always, and left it by my side of the table like a peace offering. For the first time in months, I didn't feel watched, just seen.
Days started to blend.
He'd go out early to make calls, still pretending to work for a company that had already moved on without him. I stayed home, cooking, reading, trying to remember what quiet felt like when it wasn't punishment. Sometimes we'd meet for lunch downstairs, at the cafe on the corner. We never said it out loud, but those lunches became the safest part of the day. He started leaving notes. Simple things. "Don't forget your umbrella. Buy more tea. You looked tired last night." And I started answering them on the same scraps of paper. "Stop drinking so much coffee. You talk in your sleep." I wasn't tired, just thinking of home. The wall near the kitchen slowly filled with our handwriting. A conversation made of ink, silence, and things we didn't dare to say out loud. They said exile would break us. Maybe it did, just not in the way they expected. Because sometimes, what breaks you also builds something softer. It started raining again that night. Paris always seems to know when you're trying to forget. The lights flickered, the window fogged, and I found myself cooking, not because I wanted to, but because the silence was too loud. He came home late, as usual.
Coat dripping.
Eyes tired. And then he saw the table, 2 plates, 1 candle, 1 glass of wine already poured. "You cooked?" he asked softly. "Don't sound so surprised. I used to have a life before your chef." We ate in silence at first. Not uncomfortable, just careful. He tried the pasta, then looked up at me. "It's good," he said. "You sound shocked again." Maybe I am. For a second, it almost felt like home. A quiet, imperfect, fragile kind of home. Then he said, "I keep thinking about the day everything fell apart." "Don't," I whispered. "We're still here, aren't we?" He nodded. The storm outside got louder. Inside, neither of us moved. The candlelight flickered between us. A drop of rain slid down the window, and for a moment it felt like time paused to breathe. I reached to pour him more wine. My hand trembled, and he covered it with his. Just that. A hand over another. No words. No explanations. "You're shaking," he said quietly. "I know. Why?" Because for once, it doesn't feel like pretending. We didn't kiss. We didn't need to. That night, the touch said enough. That maybe exile wasn't loneliness anymore. Maybe it was the beginning of home. The rain stopped 2 days later, and with it, the heaviness that had filled the apartment. He found me at the window, humming an old Mexican song, my hair still messy from sleep. "Let's go out," he said suddenly. "Out where?" "Somewhere that smells like food and noise." So we did. No plan. No driver. No cameras. Just us, walking down cobblestone streets that didn't care about our last names. The street market was alive. Colors, voices, music. The kind of chaos that feels like freedom. I stopped at a flower stand. He stopped at a coffee cart. And for once, we didn't walk like strangers pretending to belong. We just were. He tried speaking French to a vendor and ended up buying 3 baguettes by accident. "You really can't survive without your assistance, can you?" I laughed. "Maybe I don't want to survive," he said. "Maybe I just want to remember how to live." We were laughing, real laughter. The kind that fills your chest until you forget why you ever guarded it. Then I heard it. A voice. Soft, surprised. "Is that them?" I froze. 2 women by the fruit stand were holding up a phone, whispering, recording. He noticed immediately. The warmth in his face vanished. He stepped closer, his hand brushing the small of my back. Not possessive. Protective. "Let's go," he said quietly. The walk home was quiet. We didn't run. We didn't hide. But we both knew exile only works if the world forgets you. And the world never really forgets. It started with a notification, then another, and another. By the time I reached for my phone, the screen was already glowing. Our faces on every post, every headline, every comment. The Han Air scene in Paris with his wife. Love or strategy? The scandal continues. The same picture. Me laughing, him looking at me like the rest of the world didn't exist. The photo was beautiful. Too beautiful. That's what made it dangerous. He found me sitting on the couch, phone in hand, expression frozen somewhere between fear and disbelief. "It's everywhere," I whispered. "I know," he said. "Did you?"
No.
"I'd never risk you again." He sat beside me, scrolling through the comments. Some were kind. Most weren't. She trapped him. "He looks in love, poor fool. They deserve each other." He threw the phone aside. "They won't stop." "Then let them watch," I said quietly. "At least this time, they'll see something real." That night, the storm came back. Not from the sky, from Seoul. Emails.
Calls.
Statements. His father's name, again, in every message. "You've humiliated this family twice. Come home. Alone." He didn't answer. He just stood by the window, watching the rain hit the glass like it had something to prove. "They won't forgive you," I said quietly. "I'm not asking them to." The photograph wasn't a scandal. It was proof. And sometimes, proof is the most dangerous thing of all. Because the moment the world saw what was real, it decided it wanted to destroy it. The phone rang just after midnight. 1 ring.
2.
3. He was asleep on the couch, exhausted. I thought about letting it go to voicemail, but something in the sound felt intentional. When I picked up, the voice on the other end was calm, measured, too familiar. "Mrs. Han," he said. "It's been a while." "You must be tired," he continued. "Life abroad isn't easy, especially when it's borrowed." "I didn't expect to hear from you," I said. "No one ever does, until I need them to." There was no anger in his tone, only precision. The kind that can cut deeper than cruelty. "You love my son," he said simply. "Enough to leave everything behind for him. That's admirable. But you and I both know it won't last." I stayed quiet. He wanted me to speak first. I wouldn't. "Here's my offer," he said finally. "You go back to your country. Quietly. I'll make sure you're comfortable. And he'll never know I helped you." I closed my eyes. His voice was steady. His words perfectly rehearsed. Like a man used to winning before the game even starts. "You think you can buy silence," I said quietly. No, Mrs. Hahn, he replied. I buy peace. Then maybe you've never had either. A long pause. Then the faintest sigh. Not defeat, but curiosity. You're smarter than I gave you credit for, he said. That makes you dangerous. The line went dead. And for the first time since we left Seoul, I realized the war hadn't ended. It had just changed address. Power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers and waits for you to answer. He woke up before me. I could hear him in the kitchen. The sound of dishes, the soft click of the coffee pot. Everything felt normal. Almost. But my hand still trembled when I held the phone. I had deleted the call, the number, the record, the proof. Still, it felt like the voice of his father was hiding somewhere in the room, waiting for me to say something I couldn't. He came in holding 2 cups of coffee, one black, one with milk, exactly how I liked it. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. You were up late, he said. I couldn't sleep. Phone call? My throat went dry. Just a wrong number. He nodded slowly, too slowly, then walked to the table, placed the coffee down, and slid my phone toward me. Funny, he said quietly. Your raw number had my father's name on it. The air between us cracked, like glass under pressure. Why didn't you tell me? He asked. Because I knew what he wanted. And you thought hiding it would protect me? No, I said, voice breaking. I thought it would protect us. He looked at me, not with anger, but with something worse, disappointment. You sound just like him, he whispered, always deciding what's best for everyone else. He walked out before I could answer. The door closed quietly, and somehow that silence hurt more than any slam ever could. I thought lies were born from hate, but sometimes they come from love, and that's what makes them unforgivable. The fight didn't end with shouting. It ended with absence. He stopped asking if I'd eaten. I stopped leaving notes by the door. We moved around the apartment like ghosts, bumping into memories, avoiding each other's eyes. The coffee grew colder every morning. The bed stayed too big. And Paris somehow felt smaller. Days blurred together. He worked late, barely spoke. I pretended to sleep before he came home. But sometimes I'd hear him stop by the door, breathing like he wanted to say something, and couldn't. And I'd stay still, breathing like I wanted to hear it, but didn't dare to. That's the thing about distance. It's not measured in meters, but in unsaid words. On the 5th day, I found an envelope on the table. No name. Just his handwriting, sharp, precise, familiar. My hands shook as I opened it. You said you wanted to protect us. Maybe that's what I should have done too. I'm not angry, Elena. I'm scared of what we could have been if we met under different skies. If I'm quiet, it's not because I stopped caring. It's because caring feels like drowning, and I don't know how to swim anymore. No signature, just silence, and the faint smell of his cologne on the paper. I didn't answer the letter. Not yet. Some words don't need to be written. They just need to be heard. When the heart is finally ready to listen. He used to leave at the same time, every night. Always around 10. No jacket, no phone. Just silence and a direction. That night, I followed him. Through narrow streets, past glowing windows. Until the city opened into the river. And there he was. Standing on the bridge. Hands in his pockets. Staring at the water like it could answer something he couldn't ask. He didn't turn when he heard me. He just said, "You shouldn't be out this late." "You shouldn't be alone," I replied. The wind carried our words away before they could hit the water. "I got your letter," I said. "I know. You're not wrong." I was scared too. He finally looked at me, and there it was, the same look from that first dinner, when silence said more than any confession could. "I don't know how to fix this," he whispered. "Then don't," I said. "Just stay." The wind was sharp. He reached out slowly, not to hold me, but to brush the hair from my face. The same gesture as that night at the dinner table. But this time I didn't tremble. Our fingers met for just a second, soft, unsure, enough. Somewhere below, the river kept moving. Maybe forgiveness was like that. You never stop hurting. You just learn to flow again. We didn't promise forever. We just promised tomorrow. And sometimes that's enough. The morning paper came late, tucked beneath the door, its headlines smudged with rain. Han Corporation faces investigation after chairman's sudden collapse. He read it twice, then a third time, and I could see it, the exact moment duty replaced peace. They'll need me, he said quietly. They'll use you, I replied. He didn't argue. That was what scared me most. By afternoon, the phone rang again. This time, it wasn't his father. It was the board. We can't handle this alone, one of them said. The investors are panicking. The name Han still means stability. He listened in silence, hand gripping the edge of the table. Every muscle caught between resentment and responsibility. When the call ended, he looked at me. They're offering me full control, he said. And the price? You already know. He paced the room for hours. The silence between us heavier than ever. If I go back, he said, everything we built here disappears. If you don't, I answered, everything you've built there dies. The truth hung between us. Unfair, inevitable. Finally, he stopped. Come with me. I shook my head.
No.
You have to walk back into that world alone. So they know you chose it, not because they dragged you. He stepped closer, eyes softer than I'd ever seen. And if I lose you, then maybe you'll finally know what losing really feels like. The next morning, he was gone. No goodbye. No promise. Just a note on the night before the gala, I couldn't sleep. The city lights flickered against the curtains, a nervous rhythm, like the world knew something I didn't. He was in his office, still dressed from the day, hands buried in his pockets, staring at nothing. You're quiet, I said. Tomorrow is important. For you or for them? For both. That's when I felt it, the distance that no room could measure. I turned to leave, but he stopped me. Wear the ivory dress, he said softly. It suits you. It was the first compliment he'd given me in months. And the last before everything burned. The Han Corporation Annual Gala. A cathedral of glass and ego. They built that night like a movie. Cameras, violinists, champagne that tasted like performance. I walked beside him, smiling for the cameras. A perfect accessory, with a pulse. Everyone looked at me like I was the trophy they hadn't won. Every woman wondered if I belonged. Every man wondered how I got there. He gave his speech first, practiced, immaculate. People cheered. They always did. Then the chairman, his father, took the microphone. And the air shifted. Tonight, he began, we celebrate growth, loyalty, and transparency. The word hung in the air like smoke. Transparency. The lights dimmed. Screens lit up. Before we continue, he said, there is a matter we cannot ignore. My name appeared in gold letters. And then in red. Images. Documents. Transactions. All showing the same story. That I had moved company funds through the Morales Foundation. Fake signatures. Forged approvals. Dates that matched meetings I never attended. I felt the floor tilt under my heels. These funds were transferred without authorization, the chairman said. We are deeply disappointed. I looked at him, my husband. He didn't look back. Just froze. Say something, I whispered. Not here, he said. The photographers were faster than my breath. The headlines were already being born. Security arrived. Whispers spread like fire through silk. A woman at my side muttered, it's always the outsiders. Outsider. The word hit harder than the accusation. I wanted to scream, to fight, to prove them wrong. But there's a kind of silence that's louder than truth. And he was part of it. By the time we left the stage, I was already guilty in every language. He walked me to the car, no words, no touch. I remember the sound of his ring against the door handle. Cold. Metallic. Final. They called it the Morales scandal. The media had the footage within hours. My name, my face, my silence. I locked myself in a hotel room. He didn't come that night. Or the next. The first message came from his assistant. He needs time to fix this.
Time.
That was the cruelest word of all. 2 days later, the door opened. He stood there, tie loose, eyes hollow. It's safer if you disappear. For whom? For both of us. You could tell them the truth. They wouldn't believe me. But you'd rather they believe this? He hesitated. If I fight this now, I lose everything. And if you don't, then we both lose quietly. That was the last time I saw him, as my husband. I watched the city from the balcony. The same lights that once meant belonging now looked like eyes watching me vanish. I turned on the TV. They were replaying the gala. My image, over and over. Slowed down, magnified, dissected. They called me the thief in white. They called me the foreign wife who fooled an empire. I stopped listening, but I kept watching, because somewhere between humiliation and clarity, I felt something shift. Not anger, not grief, recognition. They wanted to break me in front of the world. But in doing so, they showed me what power really looks like. It's not in applause. It's in survival. I packed a single bag.
Passport. Cash.
Nothing else. Before I left, I looked at the mirror one last time. My reflection didn't flinch. It looked back like it was meeting me for the first time. You wanted a ghost, I whispered. Now you'll have one. The rain started as I stepped outside. I walked without looking back. The cameras didn't follow. They thought the story ended there.
It didn't.
It just changed narrators.